What if I told you that the most powerful stress relief on the planet is not sitting in a pharmacy, not locked behind a prescription, but quietly growing in fields, forests, and forgotten corners of your own backyard, ignored by almost everyone? Thousands of years ago, ancient healers didn't have pill bottles. They had soil, they had roots, they had herbs so effective at calming the nervous system that entire civilizations built their medicine around them and passed that knowledge down for generations. Modern researchers are now scrambling to catch up. Studies are being published, universities are running trials, and every time they test these plants, they keep arriving at the same conclusion the ancients already knew. But here's what nobody is telling you. Some of these herbs are native. They grow naturally in your climate, in your region, without effort, without chemicals, without a greenhouse. They've been here the whole time, and most people walk right past them every single day. Some of these plants are already disappearing, not because they don't work, but because nobody taught us to recognize them anymore. That knowledge got buried, replaced by products, replaced by profit margins. Today, I'm pulling it back out of the ground. In this video, I'm revealing 12 hidden native herbs that will lower your stress fast. These are not exotic imports. These are not expensive supplements. These are plants your great-grandparents likely knew by name and that your body was designed to respond to. And I need you to stay until the very end, because herb number 12 is one that most herbalists won't even talk about publicly. It has been quietly called the most underrated nervine in the natural world. And once you see it, you will not believe it's been growing near you this entire time. If you're someone who's exhausted by stress, by tension that never fully leaves, by a nervous system that feels like it never gets to rest, this video was made for you. Let's begin. Here's the truth that the wellness industry doesn't want to sit with. Stress is now one of the most medicated conditions on the planet. Antidepressants, anti-anxiety pills, sleep aids. The global market for these products is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and yet stress levels are higher than they have ever been recorded. More people are anxious. More people can't sleep. More people feel like their nervous system is stuck in permanent overdrive. So you try the common approaches. You download the meditation app. You cut the caffeine. You go for the walks. And maybe those things help a little sometimes, but the tension never fully leaves. It's still there at the end of the day, coiled somewhere behind your shoulders, sitting heavy in your chest, keeping your mind running long after you told it to stop. Here's what nobody told you about that feeling. The problem isn't your discipline. The problem isn't your mindset. The problem is that your nervous system is looking for something specific. Compounds, phytochemicals, plant-based signals it was designed to receive. And in the modern world, it is simply not getting them. For most of human history, people lived in close contact with the plants. They touched them, smelled them, brewed them, ate them. Their bodies were in constant low-level conversation with the botanical world. That relationship kept the nervous system regulated in ways we are only now beginning to measure scientifically. Then that relationship broke. We moved indoors, we paved over the fields. We stopped recognizing the plants growing at the edges of our properties. And we replaced that entire ancient conversation with a pill, a synthetic approximation of what nature was already offering for free. Now, I'm not here to tell you medication has no place. For some people, it is necessary and life-changing. But I am here to tell you that there is an entire world of botanical support that most people never even get to try, because nobody ever showed it to them. That is exactly what this video is going to fix. Today, I'm going to walk you through 12 native herbs, plants that grow in natural climates across North America and beyond, that have documented, studied, measurable effects on the human stress response. These are not folk tales. These are not trends. Several of these herbs have peer-reviewed research behind them. Several have been used continuously for over 1,000 years without interruption. Each one I cover, I'll give you the name, the mechanism, meaning why it works and what it actually does inside your body, how to identify it, how to grow it or find it, and how to use it. No expensive products, no complicated protocols, just plants and practical knowledge. We'll move from the most accessible and well-known at the start to the rarest and most powerful by the end. And I will say it again, do not skip herb number 12. I've spoken to herbalists who have been practicing for 30 years who call it the single most overlooked nervine in the native plant world. It grows in disturbed soils and roadsides. Most people treat it like a weed. They pull it out of their gardens without a second thought. By the end of this video, you will never do that again. If this is the kind of content that speaks to you, practical, plant-based, rooted in real knowledge, then make sure you are subscribed to this channel. We publish videos every week on medicinal plants, homestead herbs, and the botanical wisdom that modern life forgot. Hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. There's a lot more where this is from. Now, let's talk about these herbs. We're going to go through all 12. I'll keep each one tight and useful. And by the time we reach the end of this list, you're going to look at the green spaces around your home very differently than you do right now. Stay with me. Herb number 1. Passion flower. Passion flower is one of the most effective nervines growing wild across North America, and most people walk past it without a second glance. This plant works by increasing levels of GABA in the brain. GABA is your nervous system's primary calming chemical, the one that tells your mind to slow down, stop looping, and let go. Most pharmaceutical anxiety medications work by targeting this exact same pathway. Passion flower does it naturally, without the dependency risk, without the morning fog. What makes it remarkable is its specificity. It doesn't sedate you. It doesn't dull you. It quiets the mental chatter, that relentless inner noise that makes it impossible to unwind at the end of the day, while leaving your alertness intact. Studies have shown it performs comparably to low-dose pharmaceutical intervention for generalized anxiety, with significantly fewer side effects. It grows as a climbing vine with one of the most extraordinary flowers in the plant world. Intricate, otherworldly, unmistakable once you've seen it. It thrives in disturbed soils, fence lines, and woodland edges across the eastern and southern United States. Brew the dried leaves and stems as a tea, 1 to 2 teaspoons per cup, and drink it in the evening. You will feel the difference within the first week. Herb number 2. Skullcap. Skullcap is the herb that serious herbalists reach for first, and the one that almost nobody outside of herbal medicine circles has ever heard of. It is a member of the mint family, native to North America, and it has been used by indigenous healers for centuries, specifically for nervous exhaustion, the kind of stress that doesn't come from one bad day, but from months of running on empty until the body forgets what calm feels like. Skullcap works on the nervous system at a deep structural level. It contains flavonoids, particularly bacolin, that bind directly to GABA receptors and also modulate serotonin activity. What this means practically is that it addresses both the anxious mind and the depleted body simultaneously. It is one of the few herbs that is genuinely restorative to the nervous system rather than simply masking symptoms. It grows in moist, shaded woodland areas, stream banks, forest floors, damp meadows. Small blue-purple flowers sit along one side of the stem like a row of tiny helmets, which is exactly where the name comes from. Use the fresh or dried aerial parts as a tincture for best results. This is one where the tincture significantly outperforms the tea. If you're experiencing chronic stress that never fully resolves, this is the plant to start with. Herb number 3. Lemon balm. If there is one herb on this list you can grow in a pot on your kitchen windowsill starting today, why, it is lemon balm, and the effect it has on a stressed nervous system is almost immediate. Lemon balm contains rosmarinic acid and a set of volatile oils that work by inhibiting the enzyme that breaks down GABA in the brain. In plain terms, it keeps your calming chemistry active longer. It extends the window of calm rather than just creating a brief spike of it. What makes lemon balm particularly powerful for modern stress is its effect on cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Multiple studies have shown measurable reductions in cortisol levels and self-reported stress after just a single dose. One study out of Northumbria University found that participants who took lemon balm extract reported significantly improved mood, reduced anxiety, and increased calmness within hours. It is one of the easiest herbs in the world to grow. It spreads enthusiastically, tolerates partial shade, and self-seeds freely. The fresh leaves crushed between your fingers release a clean, bright lemon scent that is itself calming. Drink it as a tea, fresh or dried, or add it to cold water as an all-day nervine tonic. This is your entry point, simple, powerful, and available right now. Herb number 4, wild bergamot. Here is where the list starts to move into territory that most mainstream wellness content never reaches. Wild bergamot is a native prairie herb, a beautiful purple flowering plant in the mint family that has been used by numerous indigenous nations across North America for stress, headaches, nervous tension, and sleep disruption for hundreds of years. Modern interest in it has grown slowly, but what research exists is compelling. Its active compounds include thymol and carvacrol, the same antimicrobial compounds found in thyme and oregano, along with flavonoids that have demonstrated anxiolytic effects in preliminary studies. But what sets wild bergamot apart is its dual action. It calms the nervous system while simultaneously supporting respiratory function. Tension held in the chest and throat, the kind that comes with prolonged anxiety, responds particularly well to this plant. It grows in open fields, prairies, on roadsides, and woodland edges across a vast range of North America. It attracts more pollinators per square foot than almost any other native plant, which makes it a dual-purpose addition to any medicinal garden. Brew the dried flowers and leaves as a tea, or combine with lemon balm for a blend that addresses both mental and physical stress symptoms together. Wild bergamot rewards the people who take the time to find it, and once it is in your garden, it returns reliably every year with almost no attention required. Herb number 5, motherwort. Motherwort is the herb that stress carries in its chest, and most people have never heard its name. If your stress lives in your body as a racing heart, a tight rib cage, a pulse that spikes at the smallest trigger, motherwort is the plant that was made for you. It contains leonurine and iridoid glycosides that have a direct relaxant effect on cardiac muscle tissue. This is not metaphorical. This herb literally slows a stress-elevated heart rate. It eases palpitations. It loosens the physical grip that anxiety wraps around the chest. Traditional European herbalists called it the herb of the anxious heart. It was prescribed specifically for people whose emotional distress had moved into the body. People who didn't just feel worried in their minds, but felt it hammering in their chest at night, making sleep impossible. What makes motherwort particularly important on this list is that it bridges the gap between emotional and physical stress symptoms in a way that very few herbs do. Most nervines work on the mind. Motherwort works on the body's stress response directly. It grows as a tall, somewhat coarse plant with deeply lobed leaves and small pink flowers clustered in whorls along the stem. It favors the disturbed ground, roadsides, or in the edges of old homesteads. It has a long history of growing near where people lived because people planted it near where they lived, deliberately, because they needed it. Tincture is the most effective delivery method. A small dose in the evening, particularly for those whose stress manifests as physical tension or heart-centered anxiety, works with quiet and consistent reliability. Herb number 6, blue vervain. Blue vervain is the herb for the person who cannot stop, cannot slow down. I cannot turn the mind off even when the body is exhausted. If that sounds familiar, pay close attention. This is one of the most specific nervines in the Native American pharmacopoeia. Indigenous and early colonial herbalists used it for what they called nervous irritability, a state of chronic tension, over-responsibility, and inability to rest that is frankly the defining stress pattern of modern life. Blue vervain was the remedy for the person who carries everyone else's burdens and has forgotten how to set them down. Its active compounds include iridoid glycosides and flavonoids that have demonstrated sedative and anxiolytic effects in research models. But beyond the chemistry, blue vervain has a particular affinity for the upper back and neck, the place where most people physically store unrelenting stress. Herbalists have noted for centuries that this plant reliably releases tension held in the trapezius and the back of the skull. The mechanism isn't fully mapped yet, but the clinical observation is consistent across hundreds of years of use. It grows in wet meadows, stream banks, and marsh edges, a tall, striking plant with slender spikes of tiny violet-blue flowers that bloom from the bottom of the spike upward. Once you know it, you will see it everywhere near water. Use as a tincture. The taste is intensely bitter, which is itself a signal. Bitterness activates the vagus nerve, which is the body's primary pathway for shifting out of stress and into rest. Blue vervain delivers its medicine in more ways than one. Herb number 7, ashwagandha, the native relative. Most people know ashwagandha as an Indian adaptogen, and it is powerfully so. But what most people don't know is that Withania somnifera has a close native growing relative in the Americas, and that the broader family of plants it belongs to, the nightshade family, contains several North American species with overlapping adaptogenic properties that have been used by indigenous healers for generations. Adaptogens work differently from standard nervines. They don't just calm an acute stress response. They regulate the HPA axis, the hormonal communication system between your brain and adrenal glands. Over time, from reducing the baseline amount of cortisol your body produces in response to daily stress triggers. This is deep, structural stress relief, the kind that changes how your nervous system responds, not just how it feels in a given moment. The practical result: people who use adaptogenic herbs consistently report that the things which used to spike their stress simply stop spiking it as sharply. The triggers don't disappear. The reactivity does. Look for American plants in the physalis family, ground cherries, which share overlapping with annelide-type compounds with their Old World relatives. This is an area where botanical research is actively expanding, and the Native American pharmacopoeia continues to surprise researchers. Incorporate adaptogenic herbs as a long-game strategy alongside the faster-acting nervines on this list. They work on different timescales and different mechanisms, and together, they cover the full spectrum of stress from acute to chronic. We are now just past the halfway point of this list, and I want to take one moment to remind you of something. Herb number 12 is still coming. I have been building toward it deliberately. Everything on this list so far, the nervines, the adaptogens, the heart-centered herbs, they are all powerful in their own right. But number 12 is the one that changes how people see the green spaces around their homes permanently. If you have made it this far, you are not here for entertainment. You are here because you are genuinely looking for plant-based answers to a problem that modern solutions have not fully solved for you. That tells me you are exactly the kind of person this channel exists for. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell, because what we are building here, this library of practical botanical knowledge, is exactly what most people spent their whole lives never finding. Now, 4 more herbs. Let's finish this. Herb number 9, wood betony. Wood betony is the herb that the modern wellness industry forgot, and the one that medieval European herbalists considered so important they said it could cure no fewer than 47 ailments. That number is an exaggeration, but the core of it is not. Wood betony, Stachys botanica, is a nervine with a particular and rare quality. It grounds. Where many calming herbs soften the mind or slow the heart, wood betony anchors. It is the herb for the person whose stress has become dissociative, who feels scattered, unreal, disconnected from their own body, floating somewhere above their life, without the ability to land back in it. That particular flavor of stress, which is increasingly common and almost never named correctly, is exactly what wood betony addresses. Its active compounds include betaine, tannins, all in alkaloids that support digestive nervous system function, because the gut and the brain are in constant communication, and stress that lives in the belly responds to this plant in ways that purely cerebral nervines cannot reach. It grows in open woodlands, hedgerows, and grassy banks. A low, softly hairy plant with spikes of deep reddish-purple flowers. It has naturalized across parts of North America after being deliberately brought over by early settlers who understood its value and refused to leave without it. Drink it as a tea. It is mild, slightly earthy, easy to take daily. For people dealing with stress-related digestive disruption, brain fog, or that untethered feeling that no amount of mindfulness seems to fix, wood betony is quietly one of the most important plants on this entire list. Herb number 10. Milky oat tops. If your nervous system is not just stressed, but depleted, if you have been running on adrenaline for so long that calm itself feels foreign, milky oat tops may be the single most important herb you encounter today. Avena sativa, harvested at the specific milky stage when the seed heads are immature and release a white latex when pressed. This is not the oat in your breakfast bowl. This is a medicinal preparation with a completely different profile and a completely different purpose. Milky oat tops are what herbalists call a trophorestorative, a substance that literally rebuilds depleted tissue. Specifically, they rebuild the myelin sheath, the protective coating around nerve fibers that chronic stress erodes over time. This is not a herb that masks stress. This is a herb that repairs the nervous system at a structural level, the way that sleep used to before chronic stress made deep sleep impossible. The steroidal saponins and avenanthramides in milky oat tops support adrenal recovery, reduce hypersensitivity to stimulation, and restore the nervous system's capacity to tolerate stress without tipping into overwhelm. People who use them consistently describe a gradual but unmistakable return to baseline, a feeling of being cushioned again, buffered, able to absorb the friction of daily life without being shredded by it. To harvest the tops at the exact milky stage in early summer and tincture them fresh, dried oat tops lose most of their medicinal potency. This is one herb where the preparation method matters enormously. A fresh plant tincture is the difference between medicine and hay. This is the herb for the long road back, and it is growing in fields near you right now. Herb number 11. Hawthorn. Most people think of hawthorn as a heart herb. They are right, but they are only half right. Hawthorn, Crataegus species, native across North America, works on the heart muscle directly, improving circulation, regulating rhythm, and strengthening the cardiovascular response to stress over time. But what is less discussed is its profound effect on emotional stress specifically. Traditional herbalists across European and Native American traditions used hawthorn for grief, heartbreak, and the kind of chronic low-level sorrow that chronic stress eventually becomes when it goes unaddressed long enough. Its flavonoids, particularly oligomeric proanthocyanidins, have demonstrated measurable effects on both cardiac function and anxiety in clinical trials. It is one of the most extensively researched medicinal plants in the European herbal tradition, with over 100 published studies supporting its cardiovascular and anxiolytic effects. Hawthorn is a tree, a thorny, a beautiful wildlife-sustaining tree that produces berries, flowers, and leaves, all of which are medicinal. It lives for hundreds of years. It is one of the most ecologically generous plants you can add to a property, and it begins returning its medicine to you within the first season. Brew the dried berries and flowers as a tea or take as a tincture. Use it daily, long-term. Hawthorn is not a quick fix. It is a relationship, one that deepens the longer you maintain it, the way the best medicine always does. Before we get to number 12, I need to say something directly. If everyone watching this video went home and grew these herbs, if this knowledge became common again, the way it once was, the global supplement industry would lose billions of dollars. The pharmaceutical anxiety market would contract. The wellness product economy, which is built almost entirely on the premise that you need to buy your way to calm, would have a very serious problem. There is no patent on passion flower. There is no profit margin on skullcap growing in your backyard. Nobody makes money when you brew lemon balm from your own garden. That is not a conspiracy. It is simply economics. And it is the reason this knowledge stopped being passed down. Not because it stopped working, because it stopped being monetizable. The people who never lost this knowledge, indigenous communities, traditional herbalists, homesteaders who stayed close to the land, they didn't stop using these plants. They just stopped being listened to. This video is one small attempt to change that. Now, herb number 12, wood avens. I told you at the beginning of this video that herb number 12 would change how you see the green spaces around your home. I meant it. Jum urbanum, wood avens, a small, quiet, why almost completely unremarkable-looking plant with tiny yellow flowers and hooked seed heads that catch on clothing and animal fur as you walk past. Most gardeners pull it out on site. It grows in woodland edges, shaded garden borders, the bases of hedges, the forgotten corners of yards that nobody tends. It is classified in most gardening guides as a weed. It is not a weed. It is one of the most underutilized nervines in the entire native and naturalized plant world, and the herbalists who know it well have been saying so for decades without anyone listening. Wood avens contains eugenol, the same compound found in cloves, along with tannins, bitter principles, and volatile oils that have demonstrated sedative, anxiolytic, and anti-inflammatory effects in preliminary research. Medieval European herbalists called it the herb of grace. They used it specifically for nervous weakness, despondency, and the kind of low-level chronic anxiety that settles into a person so gradually they stop noticing it is there. They simply assume it is just how life feels. That assumption is exactly what wood avens challenges. Its action is gentle. It does not hit hard or fast the way some nervines do. What it does is quiet. It softens the background noise. It reduces the ambient tension that most chronically stressed people have stopped registering as tension because it has become their baseline. People who use it consistently describe a gradual realization, not a dramatic shift, but a slow noticing, that they are breathing more deeply than they were a month ago, that their shoulders are sitting lower, that the thing that used to spike their anxiety last week somehow didn't this week. That is wood avens working. To brew the dried root as a tea. It carries a faint clove-like aroma that is itself settling to the nervous system. Use it in the evening consistently for at least 3 to 4 weeks before making a judgment about its effect. This is a herb that rewards patience and punishes impatience. Give it time. It will give you something back. It is already growing near you. Almost certainly. In the shaded corner you've been meaning to clear out. Along the fence line. At the edge of the tree line, if you have one. You have walked past it 100 times. You will not walk past it again. Here is what consistent use of native stress herbs actually looks like in practice. Not in theory, not in a study, but in real time. Within the first 2 to 3 days of using a fast-acting nervine like lemon balm or passion flower, most people notice the edges of their evenings changing. The transition from the activated state of the day into rest becomes less effortful. The mental looping that keeps people awake, the replaying of conversations, the rehearsing of tomorrow's problems, begins to lose its grip. By the end of the first 2 weeks, the body starts to remember what unguarded calm feels like. Not the calm of exhaustion, where you collapse because you have no choice. The calm of a nervous system that has been genuinely supported, where rest feels earned and available rather than stolen. By weeks 3 and 4, particularly with the deeper restoratives like milky oat tops and skullcap, people begin reporting changes they did not expect. Stress responses that used to feel automatic start feeling like choices. The gap between trigger and reaction, that space where you can actually decide how to respond, begins to widen. I have been growing and using these plants for years. What I can tell you from direct experience is this: the change is not dramatic. It is not a lightning bolt. It is a gradual returning, like a field recovering after a hard season. Slow, steady, and then one day you look up and everything is green again. That is what these plants do. That is what they have always done. We simply forgot to ask them. These 12 herbs are more than stress remedies. They are a reminder a reminder that the human nervous system did not evolve in a pharmacy. It evolved in a landscape, in direct daily relationship with plants, soil, seasons, pause, and the slow rhythms of the natural world. Stress is not a modern invention, but the complete disconnection from botanical support for that stress, that is new. That is something our great-grandparents would not have recognized. Every plant on this list has been here longer than the anxiety economy that replaced it. Every one of them is still here, still growing, still offering the same medicine they offered 1,000 years ago to people who were wise enough to accept it. You do not have to buy anything. You do not have to believe anything. You just have to plant something, or find something, or simply start paying attention to what is already growing in the quiet corners of the world around you. The medicine was never gone. We just stopped looking. If this video gave you something useful, share it with someone who is carrying more stress than they should have to carry alone. They need this information more than they need another productivity tip. Well, leave a comment below and tell me, which of these 12 herbs are you already growing? And which one are you going to find first? If you are new here, subscribe. This channel exists for exactly this: practical, plant-based, grounded knowledge that the modern world keeps trying to forget. I will see you in the next video.